Folks, if you were to begin to look at most of the commentaries available today on this parable of the tenants, you would soon discover that almost exclusively the parable gets treated as a legitimation of private property rights. You know how Puritan Americans use this parable? Against indigenous peoples here in the Americas. They were the wicked tenants. And manifest destiny, baby, right? God has chosen the white man to go forward all the way to the Pacific Ocean, right? And after all, slavery too, right? While we're at it. But if you go to most commentaries today and you look at how the parable is interpreted, how convenient for Americans that the parable gets treated as a legitimation of private property rights. In other words, the story becomes about the landowner of the vineyard and his rights. And according to most modern commentaries, it speaks also about evil people, those tenants, who are always trying to take the vineyard away. So all the way to our day, the parable of the tenants remains understood or misunderstood 180 degrees opposite of how Jesus, prepaschal Jesus, would have originally intended it. I'm not faulting Mark here, by the way. I'm just showing what happens with the road of allegory. Gone wild. This is a sad, sorry story, isn't it? What has happened through all of it? Western civilization, good and bad. Let's recap. A parable of a peasant artisan turned folk healer, originally a critique of wealth and power hoarded through injustice, got transformed into an allegory of the death of Jesus, the storyteller, by Mark. But since Luther's time, it's been used to justify and legitimate power, wealth, authority, and cruelty. The situation of the interpreters, and not the intention of the prepaschal Jesus, has been the governing factor in the interpretation of this story. It's not all bad. It should be clear that what all these theologians have done throughout history is, what they've attempted to do anyway, is to try to make the parable relevant to whatever is going on in their time and their place. Those aren't bad ideas. Any preacher or homilist worth his salt or her salt is going to do that. But the danger is that Jesus' own situation and Jesus himself disappears. And what we begin to do is to articulate these stories in a way that justifies who we are. Conservative, liberal. So we're no longer listening to Jesus, but to ourselves. Beware a congenial Jesus.